Hey guys, so today we are going to talk a little bit about a concern that one of my viewers expressed to me just the other day, and the concern was basically age, changing direction in life at a given age. So let's get into it. Now, this is a good question, or this is a very common concern at least, and it's actually a little bit of it's a conundrum for me, because it's something that I had, and it's something that people I know have had, and it's something that kind of comes back, and I don't really, it's an interesting thing. Now, let me just explain. So this person reached out and explained that he was in his mid-20s and that he had decided that he didn't really want to do what he's doing today, and he wants to move on to software development. But he had this aching kind of concern that, well, in his part of the world, switching jobs is not, it's something that is a little bit frowned upon. And since he's in his mid-20s, he might have missed the train, and kind of, he feels that maybe he's too old to learn programming and then become a software developer. So what's interesting about this is that this happens quite a lot. Not so long ago, I had this sit down with one of my younger co-workers at work. He is in his early 20s, and he expressed a very similar thing, that he has this anxiety that he's getting too old, and that he's not as far ahead in his life as he wants to be. And this is something that kind of, I hear this over and over and over, even from some of my other friends who have coworkers, like especially the really young ones. The best one was, I think, that there was this girl. I think he was 21, something like that, 22 or something. Spoke to my friend and said something of a very similar thing. She had a rough start in life, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do. She hadn't really done any type of higher education, and she kind of felt that her life was over. Guys, let me just tell you what my friend told this girl. Well, okay, yeah, no, you're probably right. You only have roughly 40 more years of work life ahead of you. You probably shouldn't even bother. I mean, don't even unpack. Guys, I know it sounds silly when I say it, but you have a really long life. It's a really long time you're going to be at an age where you are still able to work. In software development, the sweet spot in general terms is between 20-21-ish up to around 50. When you're about 50 plus, things get a little bit slower, but it's still not impossible for you to get a job. So if you think about that range, and if you think about that, depending on what type of software developer you want to be, the time investment for you is between 1 to 5 years. That's still a long time. That's a really long time. This person who reached out, I understand the concern, because trust me, I mean, I was there as well. When I was starting out, I was in my mid-20s as well. And I also had this concern, oh shit, I'm going to be closer to 30 than anything else, closer to 30 when I'm done with my education. How is that going to pan out for me? And I can only tell you that it panned out pretty well. I mean, there are absolutely, and I mean, it's such an easy thing for us to do, and we all do it. Let's just be honest here. You are bombarded by these extraordinary cases on a daily basis due to social media, internet, and so forth. Just as a person who wants to get fit doesn't just want to get a little bit in fit, they want to be as well trained as a professional athlete. And of course, everybody on the internet is going to promote the fact that that is something that is completely achievable to every single person. Guys, it's not. It's not achievable for every person. You have to, it's not the norm. I know that you get sold the idea that that's the norm, but it's not. Just as you have these whiz kids with computers who start when they are You know, the youngest guy I've ever talked to who started doing computer programming was 8 years old. He started when he was 8 years old. I mean, come on, guys. No, I don't know any of my friends who work in any other field who starts that young. And I understand that when you hear about people like that, it gets a little bit intimidating for you. But let me then tell you about someone who I take a great deal of personal strength from this person, because I've never ever seen a case like this for anything. This was when I was in the university, and this is actually what I told this guy who was talking about, because they had a very similar background. They came from music and stuff of that nature, which is, you know, a very kind of wildly different field from software development. But this guy I went to school with, I'm gonna be honest, he struggled quite a bit with software development. It was not something that came naturally to him. I mean, he was extremely charismatic. He was in his mid-30s, or maybe even a little bit above the mid-30s. Anywho, he was extremely creative, really good with music, been in a band and all that good stuff, and had decided that, you know, this music thing, I mean, it's fun for him, but he's not going to make a career out of it. So he decided to become a software developer, and he has, you know, he has a daughter. And through it all, even though he was struggling quite a bit, he worked really, really hard. I've never seen anybody work that hard to some extent to, you know, still kind of just pass the bar for some things. I mean, as I said, software development didn't really come natural to him, but he kept on going. And with kids, yeah, he made it through. And I checked in on him just the other day. He's still working as a software developer. And yeah, even though he was, you know, and now he's closer to 40, and he still doesn't have the sort of experience that some of the other software developers have. I mean, as I said, if you start at that age, even if you start working immediately, I mean, as I said, there are people who start when they are 8 years old, and you, experience-wise, you're probably never going to catch up to them, but you don't have to, because at the end of the day, guys, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to be part of software development. I know that some people tell you that, or rather that you may get the idea that the only people who work in software development are super geniuses. I thought so too, but it's simply not true. So what I want you to take away from this is that age only really matters if you are on the edges of that scope. In other words, if you start today and you're 50 plus, that may be a little bit tricky for you. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it might be tricky. And if you're way too young to even have a job, then you might have to wait a little while. But in between, remember, you're gonna work for quite a long time. So try to remember that there are people who start at different ages and they work just as any other software developer. Some people have more experience, some people have less experience. But once you pass a few years of experience, it doesn't really matter all that much anymore. It really only comes down to, at the end of the day, what you can do and whether or not you're a good culture fit for the company that is hiring software developers. Have a great day.